So what are you drinking?
Nothing to brag about, but Bullet bourbon.
Bullet's good.
But I feel like you're going to outdo me here with this nice bottle here.
Angel's Envy. It's a nice thing to sip on. I enjoy it straight. I don't like it with ice. I don't know why. I've always been like that.
I do have 2 big ice cubes in here, which makes it look even bigger than it is. Still big.
Cheers.
Damn straight. Good to see you, Damien. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time. So I guess the reason why we're having this conversation, I think I had a bunch of questions that I wanted to ask you about this whole filmmaking process. And so I wrote it all out. It was like a giant document and I sent it over to you. I'm like, can you like answer these questions for me? And then, you kind of came back and said, hey, that would be a great thing if we could just sit down and talk about it instead. And maybe we can just, we could put something out there for people who may be aspiring filmmakers and other people who might just be curious about the process. All right. So as we're getting into the movie, if you want to do me a favor, just tell me and I guess tell the audience who's watching just a little bit about your background. You clearly love movies, and it shows because Allan the Dog has a ton of movie references, some subtle and some very kind of glaringly obvious, which I love.
Awesome.
So how did this all begin for you?
I'll do. Well, thanks, man. And I'm glad you picked up on some of those references. That was one of our most fun things with that movie is just all the little references throughout. And like you said, some are obvious, like the Rocky theme. For the love of God, can we please scramble these fuckers? And then there's, the Step Brothers photo, Matt and Alan's face over the Step Brothers. Yeah, but, and then you've got like the Wrath of Khan reference when Alan is at the window. He does the Ricardo Montalban speech. From hell's heart, I stab at thee. For hate's sake, I spit my last breath at thee. Steve Wright. My name is Steve Wright. I wrote Allan the Dog. I'm also the puppeteer and voice of Alan. So my main function was writing the script and developing the story with Barry Murphy, who directed it. We were co-partners in terms of developing the story. So while I technically wrote it, there's so much of Barry in the whole story, as well as him directing the film and everything else. But yeah, I grew up loving movies, dude. And, I was going to mention my brother was in feature films, Broadway plays, TV movies. So we kind of grew up with it around the house. He made it really, truly to the big times. And of course, that was inspiring. He was in Stephen King's Silver Bullet.
Wow. I didn't know that.
I believe his character name was Brady. He's Corey Haim's friend at the beginning. Dude, that was Dino De Laurentiis production. Gary Busey was in it.
Gary Busey.
Another big one. He was in Poison Ivy with Michael J. Fox and Nancy McKeon. That 1980s movie.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, dude, that was huge back in the day. Huge. Yep. Like he was one of the starring kids. He was Jerry Disbro, sort of the cool kid. So yeah, of course, I grew up idolizing him and just loving movies. I mean, come on, like you. So I just always wanted to make a movie. I went to film school and never stopped writing, man. I kept writing, kept learning. I didn't feel like I figured out movie story until about the time I met Barry. We were both working on The Bachelor. He was an editor and I was a producer, and he was really interested in movie story. And I had literally just started writing the script to Allan the Dog, and he knew a lot about movie story. And yeah, man, finally got a script that we were really happy with, had a product ready to go.
What was the sort of the initial inspiration for Allan the Dog and making a movie with Allan, as the star, I guess, of the show, of the movie?
I was working in reality TV at The Bachelor, and we have this thing called the assists bay. And there was this McGruff the crime dog puppet just sitting on the shelf. In the movie, Allan, that's a brand new puppet built by Kimberly Morris. But I started using the McGruff puppet, didn't use the McGruff personality, of course, kind of gave it its own, personality, my voice, and started doing comedy videos with it.
Here's Johnny. Hey, dude, why didn't you wake me? I miss my snuggle buddy.
That personality.
Why are you sleeping on this side of the bed?
That this puppet, McGruff on the surface, developed into, I just felt was worthy of a movie. What story can I go along with this puppet, the things that he likes and that he dreams about. So once we, Barry and I got serious about making the movie, it was tough for me to go from the McGruff puppet, who I had produced videos with it, and I kind of had this emotional attachment to it. And then Barry and I went out with the new puppet, and we went to LACMA, and he went and he took this photo of Allan with the lights in the background. And I fell in love with the photo, man. There was so much character in that face. And I immediately went and burned the McGruff puppet. Just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. No, I did not do that. But I was ready, and it just was like that. I fell in love with the new puppet, and I love the new puppet anyway, but just in terms of like transferring that personality to it. So that's how the new Allan came about.
That's cool. Yeah, that's a good story. So I know when I went out to visit to help out a little bit for the couple of days that I was able to come out there, I feel like I came out at a really awesome time because it was, I think we were shooting the finale, a lot of the finale of the film, and I got to meet a lot of people that had worked on it. So how did you find all of those people and get them in the movie? Because they were all excellent actors.
We shot for about 10 straight days, and then we had a break.
Yep.
And we shot for 3 or 4, and that's when you came out, when we did the huge coyote fight sequence.
Yes.
At the end.
Looky here, fellas. I love it when I catch dinner. Eating dinner.
That was the most puppets we were working with in a scene. We had all 3 coyotes. Or is that 4? 4 coyotes.
4, 5, 6 puppets going on at the same time.
So Sam Daly, as Barry has described, was like the gatekeeper to get a bunch of our cast. First person that he recommended was Allison Hayslip. And he was like, dude, I know someone would be great for this. So we got the script to Allison. She then got the script, her friend Gwen Hollander, who was the voice and puppeteer of Princess Leia, as you know, and of course you built that puppet. So that was our, and then obviously the big one is Steven Weber.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
can't forget him.
Oh my God. Again, through Sam, the gatekeeper, his father is Tim Daly from the show Wings in the 90s, which I'm sure you remember Wings. And that was Tim Daly with Steven Weber. So that's how we got the script to Steven Weber for him to play Barrick, which is fantastic, dude. That was, talk about it being a real movie. We've got all these great actors, but like, Steven Weber, just because, we grew up watching that guy, that made it real, like the real thing. So he was, of course, great.
So let's see. We talked about puppet builders. You talked a little bit about Kim Morris. How did you find Katie Powers?
She is constantly working.
Yeah. She makes beautiful, amazing things. She's incredibly talented.
Oh, dude, she's taken off. She's completely taken off. I mean, she does all this cool stuff. She did such cool stuff with us. She built the radioactive outfit that Allan wears in his scene with Steven Weber. And
yeah, that was great.
In the helmet.
Is that you, Grumpy Cat?
Come on, dude.
Yeah, it is you, isn't it? What are you, insane?
She did all the, a lot of puppet wardrobe stuff. And I made this point in some other chat that I did where, the main thing Barry and I learned making this movie was you fight for all the little things because all the little things add up to a much better movie. And you get tired, you don't have a lot of budget, you're shooting 8 pages a day, and you start to just, cut corners, and you try not to
blast through it,
Right. So one example of this, a big example, Blinky, when he comes out at the end of the movie, has the little crutch. The squirrel, of course, that Allan has attacked for no good reason, just because it's in his nature. And I told her, I said, and she had already done this amazing job with Blinky, putting bandages on him. He's got a little black eye, and there's some blood coming through one of his bandages. And I said to her, I was like, hey, don't worry about the crutch. I mean, don't even worry about it. There's no way you're going to be able to find a crutch this big for this squirrel. And dude, the next day, he's got this crutch.
I forgive Allan.
Give it up for Blinky, yo. And I'm like, where did you, it looks like this perfect little miniature crutch. And I go, where did you get that? And she goes, I made it out of clay. So dude, that's just a great sort of collaboration story of people bringing such amazing things to the movie. And now that little crutch just makes that scene for me when I see Blinky come up on stage with Allan. But we were lucky to get her, clearly.
Yeah. Was there a moment while you were shooting the film where you kind of really felt like, oh my God, this is really clicking? Like, can you give me a good example of a moment when you were shooting where you're like, oh, this is awesome. This is awesome.
Definitely, man. I think there were two big ones. Our first location was Ellie's house, and they rented out, Barry and the production team, they rented out this house that does that. These people live there, but like they rent it out. It was the second day. It was not the first day. And Johan said, our cinematographer said, hey, are you on our Dropbox? And I was like, no. He's like, oh, dude, check this out. And he showed some stills, from the shoot the day before. And I just couldn't believe it. It looked so amazing. Dude, just seeing those images, that was the biggest, this is real. For me personally, after that, the bedroom scenes where they're like pillow talking.
I say we both think super positive stuff while we go to sleep in the spoon's position.
We can do that, Allan. But no matter what, we got each other. Don't forget that.
I know.
For me, doing those scenes with Sam, I was like, I just kind of got this sense people might root for these characters. They might root for this guy and his dog. And the crew was really enjoying those scenes. We of course, you can pick up on that, their reactions to it, hearing laughs in between takes and stuff like that. And yeah, just doing those scenes, I really got the sense, just in terms of character and story, people may like, and they need to, clearly, they may like these guys and root for them. And if we can do that, if we can get there, that's a big piece of the puzzle. So that was kind of my big one.
It's that investment in the characters, It's
absolutely.
Get that investment. What issues did you run into? Like what kind of issues where you're like, oh my God, this might be a showstopper, or like, oh God, what are we going to do about this? It's a catastrophe, or there's a problem. How do we fix it? How'd you get around it?
We did get kicked out by the police at one location. We were shooting at Matt's apartment, and this picture kept falling off the wall.
Oh.
And we were cueing actors by knocking on the wall. And
yep.
Totally understandable. And they called the cops. But I'll tell you, dude, we all did really well. Barry was great. He was like, well, all right, and he worked with our line producers. Like, what else can we film today? Because we can't lose a half day. That's how tight things are. We're shooting for 10, 11 days. So and then Allison came through and was like, let's shoot over at my aunt and uncle's house. And we did some other scenes that day. And the only other story I'll tell is that, we would shoot in a park here and there where we weren't supposed to be. And Barry and I would tell everyone, small footprint. We're not supposed to be there. And then Barry and I would show up on set, and there's like a generator running. There's like a full makeup chair with the big mirror and light. There's people everywhere on walkies. There's a huge like tent erected. And we were like, but I'll tell you, the funny thing is we were like, there's so much activity. People will just assume we have permission.
Right. Who would be so brazen?
Right. Exactly.
You should come to our show.
Yeah.
I'd love to, guys, but I have my OPKC meeting tonight.
Huh. OPKC?
Owl Pillow Knitting Club. My therapist said I should focus on what makes me happy right now, and frankly, I love getting high and knitting owls on shit.
I got nothing, you?
No, I'm good.
Cool. What about post-production? Did you get any issues with post-production? Some concerns or anything crazy?
That's Barry and I's, that's how we make a living is post-production. Barry's been an editor since he was in his early 20s. And I've been working in post-production as a producer and story producer for 13 years. So that's kind of the world that we're more comfortable with. So Barry, as an editor, chose not to edit the movie himself because he had been advised, you're too close to it. So he found and got Joe McCasland to do the movie. And Joe fell in love with it right away, looked at the footage, like, yeah, I want to do this. And so they worked closely together. I watched cuts and gave notes, but Barry oversaw that as an editor and as the director, of course. And, but yeah, we're a little bit more comfortable in post-production. One challenge was removing all the puppet rods. We, visually, we had that talk
Yeah.
Because I remember back in the day, in the Muppets, on the Muppet Show, you would see rods, of course.
You just see them. Yeah.
But at some point, with the Great Muppet Caper, maybe before that, they're gone. They've removed those.
Yeah.
But I was totally okay with seeing the puppet rods. To me, that was just part of the suspension of disbelief, something that I was willing to do as an audience member. But Barry was really like, dude, if we can remove them, let's remove them. Now that process was insanely tedious. That young McGaw was our visual effects supervisor in post-production, and she did a lot of that work. And I know that was horribly tedious, but it was amazing to see the puppets move without puppet rods. Even though I was willing, just in theory, to not have those, they were absolutely fantastic. I mean, that really, again, going back to this is a real movie. Oh my God. Not seeing the puppet rods was magical, man. When we first started seeing that, we were like, what?
This is my goodbye dance. I know it looks like the robot, but it's totally original. Oh yeah, it's how I celebrate the removal of poison in my life. Goodbye, poison. Beep boo beep.
So that was very tedious, but other than that, went great. Brad Harper did our music. He just got it. He said when he first read the script, he was already hearing music, and we were like, "That's can't hear anything better than that from your composer." And I love the score. I mean,
it's good music. Yeah,
it's great music. It really has become this glue, this thematic glue that kind of pulls the movie together.
So the movie was done, right? And then all of a sudden we started hearing about, okay, you got it on Amazon Prime. That was where I had seen it. And you'd seen a couple other video on demand places that were carrying it. Could you explain a little bit about how did you get this movie to be shown by some of these video on demand places?
Sure. That is 100% Warner Davis, our producer. Warner Davis, that was, Barry Murphy, the director, really assembled the team. And I was part of that team as the writer and co-story guy. And of course, the voice and puppeteer of Allan. But Barry really did put together this amazing team. And one of the huge pieces was Warner Davis. That guy, he makes a living making movies. We don't. We're post-production reality TV. He makes a living producing movies, and he had never done a comedy before. He'd done thrillers and horror movies. And so that's one of the reasons he was kind of attracted to it, is doing a comedy, adding a comedy to his repertoire. But he's the one who really guided us through everything. I mean, the casting process, what we should pay people, even if we're paying on the low end, dealing with SAG contracts, all that kind of stuff. Warner really was our go-to guy because he had done it before. So we sold the domestic streaming rights to a company called Freestyle Digital Media, and we're out there, and it's great to have the movie out there. You can go rent it on iTunes, Amazon, Vudu, Verizon, Fios. It's on cable, as on demand on cable and satellite. It's on Tubi for free.
Yep.
Also, because that was the domestic streaming rights that we sold to Freestyle, we have an international sales agent named Julia Prena.
Okay.
And she has a deal with parts of Latin America, Taiwan, and most recently, Russia.
Что сделаешь первым делом, когда разбогатеем? Счастье и близкие люди куда важнее стендапа. 100 пудов. Я тоже за беспробудный секс, как ни крути, и все такое. Пес молокосос.
Do you have any couple of last favorite moments from the experience of making this movie that you want to discuss, that you want to kind of let us know about?
So one is, of course, Steven Weber. Wings, that was such a huge show in the 90s, and dude, he's worked constantly since then. I mean, he's Ballers, 13 Reasons Why, Chicago Med. I mean, people recognize that dude. If they don't know his name, they recognize him. And so to have him there and to have Sam talk to him and get him to be in the movie was fantastic. And the first scene that Allan did with him, Allan would joke on set. You probably saw a little bit of that. He would talk to people and keep things light. While people were setting up, he might be chatting up the gaffers or, the lighting crew or whatever. But I was sitting there, I'm laying on the ground, Allan's like already sort of being worked. Steven Weber, there's pictures of him. He's on his phone, but in the scene, he's on his phone. So he's just kind of like ready for the scene. And Allan says to the crew, just kind of announces to the room, I'm not one for hyperbole, but this is the greatest moment of my life. And Steven Weber turns and goes, because of me, aim higher. And it just was awesome. Just a light moment. People cracked up, and it was fun. It was so fun shooting with him. It was so fun shooting the whole movie. It really was a dream come true.
All right, here we go. Action.
So, and I'm so glad you were a part of it. You're a huge part of it, dude. Made so many of our puppets and came out and experienced it and voiced Chester.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That was very cool.
That was great. It was a total blast.
Just reminiscing about Allan the Dog. It was a really, really wonderful, from a personal perspective, I had a really great experience working with you guys on this, and that it wound up to be a successful thing that's out there in the world. And it's just, I feel like I was part of that. And it just makes me smile every time I think about it.
I love it, man. Well, thank you very much, dude. It was great working with you, and I appreciate you chatting me up about the movie, and we'll talk soon, Damien.
Yep. Thanks, Steve.
Right.
Appreciate everything. Peace.